Over the years, I've interacted significantly with Paul Copan's apologetic defenses of biblical violence. I've done so in articles and in videos, and in my 2021 book, Jesus Loves Canaanites, and most recently in a debate a couple years ago on Unbelievable, when Copan's book, Is God a Vindictive Bully, had just come out. But in this video, I wanted to address one specific talking point that comes from Copan that I hear time and again from lay Christians. And that's that they defend biblical violence war rhetoric by saying, well, it's hyperbolic war rhetoric and it's like trash talk you get on the sport field. So I'm going to play a clip from Copan recently sharing that view and just let you know that the clip is awkwardly filmed from behind Copan, but nonetheless, you'll get the point of what he's saying there. I'm going to play just, I don't know, maybe 10 seconds of this clip, and then I'm going to offer a critical response to it.
Is that in the ancient Near East, they had what's called a kind of trash talk, where you used hyperbole, just like we will in our sports imagery, where we totally annihilated those guys, we totally destroyed them. That's the kind of language that was used in the ancient Near East, where you.
Okay, so the key to recognize there is Copan says that the exaggerated language in the ancient Near East is just like that of the sports field today. What should we think of that claim? I'm not very sophisticated when it comes to charts and graphs and things like that, so this is the best I can do for you. But this is generally speaking what Copan appears to be invoking. So I'm going to call it the hyperbolic scale of impact. On the sports illustration, what you are thinking is we will defeat them or we defeated them. What you say is we are going to kill them or we killed them. And that is not literally true. It's an exaggeration of the impact you're going to have on that individual. The exaggeration is that you're going to cause physical harm, even resulting in death to them. But in fact, all you will really do is defeat them. And he wants to argue that that is just like what you have in passages like Deuteronomy 20, verses 16 to 18. So let's take a look at Deuteronomy 20 and see whether that really is the case. So here we read, in the cities of the nations the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance, do not leave alive anything that breathes, completely destroy them. Dot, dot, dot. And it goes on from there. So here, again, the statement is kill all civilians. And what Copan wants us to believe is that this is exaggerated rhetoric, just like on the sports field. But of course, on the sports field, what it means is literally, it does not mean causing harm to anybody, certainly not death. What it means is simply beating them in a game. And honestly, that's not like what's happening in Deuteronomy 20 at all. But that's what he wants us to think. So kill all civilians is somehow analogous to defeating all civilians. The way that you can see that this is completely fallacious is just by reading Deuteronomy 20. Now, we don't even need to read the entirety of it, but we can just come back up to verse 10. From verses 10 to 15, what God here is describing is he's contrasting the response to the faraway tribes and contrasting that with the tribes in the land, the seven tribes. And for the faraway tribes, the direction is kill all the men in the cities, but enslave the women and children. And that's what you see in verses 14 and 15. So, verse 13, kill all the men, 14, 15, enslave the children. That contrasts with verse 16 and 17, which says kill everyone. So, this is not just like the sports field. Sports field uses an exaggeration that becomes, frankly, a metaphor when you say defeating them by describing it as killing them, ending their life. But here, this is not like that because what we are talking about is the context where people will be killed, where verses 16 to 17 is describing the killing of these seven tribes, the Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. So this is clearly false. They're not just like one another, as Paul Copan claimed. Having said that, you can attempt to redeem his exaggerated language rhetoric like this. You could say this, okay, it says kill all civilians, but really, oh, sorry, that's a typo. It should say Deuteronomy 20, not 26. but it should be not literally kill them all, but kill an indiscriminate number of civilians. Because keep in mind, this has to contrast with verses 13 and 14, where it says, kill the men and enslave the women and children. Here, the contrast is you're not just enslaving them, you are killing them. But even if you concede that this could be exaggerated language, you don't have to kill all of them. Nonetheless, it entails killing an indiscriminate number of civilians. And then right after this, the passage goes on and explains why that is so important. Why it is important is because if they are allowed to live, they will lead you away from faithfully following Yahweh. So there's not only a direction given to kill them all, or kill an indiscriminate number of them if you concede that this is hyperbolic, exaggerated rhetoric. But nonetheless, then the explanation for why you should kill them all is given, which is otherwise they will lead you into sin. So to conclude, what Copan says is, I think, just patently false. When he says that this is exaggerated rhetoric, you could concede it may be exaggerated. I mean, I'm going to say it is probably exaggerated when it says leave alive nothing that breathes. Well, yeah, that's exaggerated. You don't have to kill every living organism in the land in order to faithfully carry out what Yahweh is directing. But nonetheless, if the people are presented as representing an intrinsic threat to the integrity of the people of God in virtue of their very existence, which clearly is the case here in Deuteronomy 20, then that does entail mass killing the people, killing as many as you possibly can, not just men, as we read in verse 13, but expanding that to killing an indiscriminate number of women and children and infants, as we read in verses 17 and 18, or 16 and 17. So it's a complete misfire. Uh, if I may be so cheeky as to say, Hopan's metaphor is dead on the field.